Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Happy Star Trek Day, and welcome to the Iron Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, narrative, and big ideas of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I'm coming from Underworld North Studio in Toronto, where the internet does work, I promise. And as always, I'm joined from across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. Although, funny enough, I did not see the intro when we did when they did the intro, so that was a little weird. But we're here, so
Yeah.
that's all that matters right now, people.
There we go. I saw the intro. So
Okay.
what can you? I have a question for you, Joel.
Yes.
Did the Empire succeed the Republic? Did the
Uh
First Order succeed the Empire? We'll get there. Does that mean? But if the First Order succeeded the Empire, does that mean the First Order succeeded the Republic? Real world history does abound with examples of regime changes, successor states, sweeping constitutional amendments, and how can they help us understand similar dynamics in Star Wars this week? Joel, put your poli sci hat on. We got a deep dive. I got a classic EOC deep dive. Strap yourselves in, everyone. There we go. We're talking about successor states and government continuity and all that fun poli sci stuff that regime changes and all that. So stay tuned for that. First, let's do the plugs. Follow us primarily on Blue Sky at Ion Canon, EYEONCANON, at Bisky.social. Also, Twitter, Instagram threads at Ion Canon Pod. Glad we have some hype from a country. I don't think New Zealand's gone through any kind of major regime change except for the one Canada did as well. We'll get to that. Let us know, Daisy, what New Zealand regime change looks like. So getting to plugs, follow us on Canada.bisky.social. And again, we're still on Twitter, Instagram, and threads there at Ion Cannon Pod, but not really I don't think we've posted in a number of months. So best bet is Blue Sky. Also my other podcast, we'll get to that in a minute. Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. Check out the tractorbeam.biscuit.social. We would be honored if you would give us a follow there as well. Of course, we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network, of course, at the SW. Also, check out those socials here on the Underworld YouTube channel. We have YouTube memberships, we have super chats, we have all that fun stuff, as you just saw. If you chat with us, we'll chat right back as best we can. If you super chat us, we'll get it immediately. Also, YouTube channel memberships. We're grateful for any support. You can provide the Discord server, Joel. What's happening in the Discord server, along with conversations and chats and ideas going back and forth? What else is happening?
I think this week, if all goes according to plan, I plan to stream a Star Wars documentary called Star Wars: The Legacy Reveal. I think it's on YouTube. I had to double check. It was from the History Channel. It came out just after the prequels. It had a bunch of celebrities, a bunch of even politicians, a bunch of news people. It's got everybody. It's got Peter Jackson, Stephen Colbert, J.J. Abrams. I think even before he did a Star Trek movie. It's got Newt Gingrich of all people. Got Nancy Pelosi.
Wow.
We got Dan Rather of the news. It got a lot of people. So it's this is not a Lucasfilm associated. It's just something the History Channel did, and it kind of covers all of Star Wars 1 through 6. It was kind of when everyone thought Star Wars was over. It's like, let's just do a big retrospective now. Little did everybody know, but very interesting, very cool, and I hope to show it to everybody.
Does Newt Gingrich know he's in Star Wars?
No, but he does think that the Rebel Alliance is America and the West, and the Empire is the Soviet Union. So
he completely misses how he's one of the bad guys in episode 1.
I think so. Yes,
that's funny. There we go. Check that out. I might join that. That sounds amazing. That sounds hilarious. And pretty interesting as well. Yeah, so that's in the Discord, in the voice chat and video chat part of the Discord server there. That's this Friday. As I mentioned. Oh, sorry. I tell you, I have my coffee going here. As mentioned, Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. Every Wednesday, Chris Abbott and I review the comic books that came out this week. That are coming out this week. They come out that day. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Underworld channel. And this week, we got a new one. The Tales from the Nightlands #1. It's a doozy. Run, don't walk to your comic book store. It's really a really cool book, really cool lore.
China.
My only gripe with it is it's only 3 issues. So there we go. So check out number 1, and also Jedi Knights number 7. Continue on with that run by Mark Guggenheim. So yeah, do check that out as well. We'd be honored again. Follow up Blue Sky, the tractor beam. Last but not least, 2 more things to get there. Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If audio is more your speed, right after we're done recording, I'll throw this right up onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search Ion Canon Podcast, not Ion Canon, but Ion Canon Podcast, and yeah, you'll be able to get all our episodes, at least going back for about a year or so when I started doing that again. Check that out if that's how you prefer to listen to podcasts. Lastly, last plug. Tractor Beam Live, the panel Ash and I did with Ethan Sachs and Paolo Villanelli from Fan Expo Canada. That is up on this here YouTube channel. So please do give that a look. It's about 40 minutes, talking mostly about Bounty Hunters, that comic book run, but also about his Podameron and Codebreaker comic from Dark Horse. So yeah, it was great discussion. I mentioned it on this pod a bit. Great discussion, and yeah, looking forward to doing something like that again. Definitely want to do something like that again. So please do check that out. Ethan was there at the table with us. Paolo was coming in on Zoom from Rome, so you can hear him. Hopefully, you can't really see him, but you can hear him. Can't see him at all. He's off on the screen. You can hear him though, and yeah, definitely worth hearing, worth listening to. So that's on this YouTube, but also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Sorry, the Tractor Beam Comics review. It was Tractor Beam, the Tractor Beam Star Wars Comics reviews. That's what I call it on on audio. The Tractor Beam Star Wars Comics reviews. That's what it's called. So search for that as well. All right, I think we got through the plugs there. Joel, you've been watching the Mandoverse. How's that going?
Oh, that's been a lot of fun. Me and my dad have been watching all the Mandoverse shows. We've been just watching all the Star Wars streaming shows in general. We did Andor, and then we're doing the and then we did the Mandoverse now. We just finished Mando season 3, and now we're starting with Ahsoka.
Nice.
Season 1. I just think it's very funny watching my dad watch Ahsoka, because he's never seen an episode of Clone Wars or Rebels in his life. So he's kind of coming at it with like, oh, that's Baby Yoda's friend. So we're watching the story of the friend of Baby Yoda.
Interesting.
He really likes Baby Yoda. It reminds me of our cat. Baby Yoda reminds me of our cat. And there's a cat in Ahsoka too, because you got the wolf cats. So yeah, that's been fun, and I just think that's just such a funny thing.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, Ahsoka, it's the friend of the Baby Yoda. So yeah, we're just having a good time watching it, and we just finished episode 1 yesterday.
Nice. He's not alone. I'm sure he's not alone in watching this show and have you watched The Mandalorian, but not Clone Wars or Rebels. I'm curious to see how well this show does in getting him situated and who all these characters are, who Ezra and Sabine and Hera are. Yeah, please do report back. Do report back on that. How was Mando season 3 on rewatch like that?
I mean, I kind of just enjoyed it for just kind of turn off my brain, just dumb fun. I actually had more fun with Book of Boba Fett, which I had a lot more just fun watching.
Yeah.
I watched 2 episodes. Especially work when you watch 2 episodes a day, or a week, depending on how long it took. And then the 7th episode is the finale. No, I mean, we're just having fun, just casually watching it, and then go about our day.
Nice. Like, are you watching like every day, or kind of a bit of a mini binge sort of?
Yeah, we just watch depending on what our schedule looks like. Sometimes we watch it every other day. Sometimes we watch it once a week.
Yeah.
So it's definitely nothing. Just very casual.
Sure. Because like I figure all of these shows do well, even the Acolyte, especially the Acolyte, and probably especially Book of Boba Fett, do better when you can sit down and watch them in one go, or at least closer together, like the kind of.
Andor was a lot like that. I
felt interesting, because Andor was so great even week to week. So
But yeah,
Who knows?
that's
No,
been my dad's not having a problem following the story along, so
that's good.
definitely
Like
fine.
especially when it gets to when Jason talks about like how that moment where he says, "Oh yeah, it's like when you told me when I was like, younger when you beat the bad guys."
Mhm.
Kind of him recapping the finale of Rebels
Yeah.
for uh the audience, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even when Hoyang explains who Jason's father is to Carson Teva. Those moments. I'm curious about how those moments land. Interesting.
Gotcha.
It's good backstory. So please do report back there. Um, yeah. So I got a bit shifting gears a little bit. You know, Din's been messaging me about the hero's journey, and I've been thinking about the hero's journey, and I don't think Din's watching, but that's okay. Um, what was it? I came across just on Instagram, which can be a terrible place. We can have some interesting insights. I saw this. Um, there's someone posted an image or graphic in their stories, something to the effect of, um, see if I get this right. It used to be with the hero's journey, the character would go out and find a cause to be a part of, and now the hero's journey is you go out and you find yourself. And it was kind of saying, oh, there's something missing there. It used to be the good old days where good stories you could find a cause. And I thought, I've always felt that something is missing in stories where it's primarily focused on finding yourself. And so I do think there is something to do with, I mean, with Luke, his story, he finds the Rebel Alliance. What is important, for example, right? And Frodo finds the quest to take the ring to Mordor, and all these stories that we have. And I do think the more recent trend has been a bit of a corrective to say in order to find a cause, you have to find yourself. But I want to hear more stories of that actually work on both levels to say, in order to find yourself, you have to go find a cause to be a part of bigger than yourself. And those seem to be the best stories. I mean, that's the thing I think The Last Jedi does brilliantly is Rey she finds herself by becoming part of this resistance, part of this greater family. She's on the ship. Like we talked last week, she's got the books. So she's part of that cause too of carrying on the Jedi legacy. In so doing, she finds her place in all this. And um yeah, I mean it's harder to write a more layered story like that. I get it. I get some stories they just you need to finding yourself may be the cause. I get that, but I think more compelling stories are, especially in this world that is seems so broken right now, um, because people have been prevented from finding themselves, and that's one of the effects of that. Uh, to say we can find ourselves by taking up the cause of restoring this world, and it reminds me of this fellow named Jesus who said, "Those who lose their life will find it," and um, yeah. So I mean, just the thing of so it's not so much my issue. Just to finish up my thought here, it's not so much my issue with Joseph Campbell himself. I think it's with the way that's being reduced to a very individualist conception of purpose, and um, again, as a corrective for two strongly collectivist conceptions of purpose that deny the person, deny the individual, deny the personal journey. But it's either way, it's more complicated than that, and it's a question of where the priority is. So those philosophical musings that I've got that I sometimes do. I don't know, Joel, if anything there lands with you. What do you think of all that?
Well, I think Joseph Campbell's overrated because he's an anti-Semitic, apparently, what I've
Well,
always read.
right.
So I always think the whole hero journey thing has just been something fans have been overhyped with because they don't think. I think George himself has sort of overhyped his influence by it in retrospect to make himself look smarter, and I still stand by
Huh,
that to this day.
interesting.
But I don't know. I mean, I think you're right in that a lot of stories these days are about the individual over a cause because
Hmm.
I don't think people really want to join a cause. I think we're becoming more and more atomized every day.
Hmm.
Because of social media, online stuff, and a whole bunch of other things to make us very individualistic.
Yeah,
Like
that
it's sort of like my whole
totally right.
like, yeah, 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 sure, you're anti-fascist, that's great and all, but what do you stand for? What comes after you take down the bad guys? What's your
Hmm.
Soviet utopia?
Yeah. So, what's your Soviet Union? Yeah, the big grand plan, grand narrative plan. So, just some thoughts as we uh watch Star Wars and see, okay, what is it really saying? The even, and not just Star Wars, any kind, especially the Disney thing, right?
Mhm.
Is it the friends you meet along the way? Is it the people you, I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to think about this a lot more. This might be good for a whole episode. Maybe get in on to defend Campbell and see, okay, what does he really say? What does he really mean? All that. Um, I have a whole bunch of YouTube videos in the WhatsApp chat that I have to watch. So there's that. Um,
Well, you can tell Din that I just think a lot of that academia is just BS, and I don't take it seriously.
Interesting. Fair enough.
That's,
Fun times. Fun
I
times.
know.
All right. Speaking of, no, apropos of nothing. We got a bit of news. Got a bit of news. Exciting news.
Okay.
In terms of the sort of paper-ish to screen pipeline, and Lego is always the best place to try this out. Some legendary news, I should say, because the Sith, they're legendary. Uh, the Rebuild the Past, the Lego show that's coming out in about what, on the 19th, about 11 days from now. Features a certain video game slash paper first slash Mandalorian slash Jedi slash Sith slash purple lightsaber character. Revan is on screen in a Lego movie. Um, doesn't say anything. And this is all we got was this excerpt with this Dark Kenobi, and the heroes come upon Dark Kenobi and a Revan in a mask with a red and purple lightsaber. Um, and yeah, there's lots to think about there in terms of, okay, well, yet another step forward in bringing this character back. The next one, I know we talked about Mara Jade being possibly the next something or other, but bringing Revan back has been talked about for a while. I know there's been little hints, like in the Rise of Skywalker, one of those legions of the Sith Eternal. There's in that Obi-Wan Anakin comic a bit of a hint of that. I have my theory just about combining the story with Tar Vizsla. That I haven't thought of that in a while, but I think that could be a thing. Maybe not, but um, yeah, it seems like. And here's the thing: I think these Lego things are good testing ground for maybe more serious ideas. Not that these Lego things don't have serious themes or ideas in them, but um, it's not canon, whatever canon means. We have our eye on it anyway, but it's not part of the main storyline. It's not part of like a live action, whatever. So, but it's good to gauge audience response. We know the audience response is gonna be off the roof. So, um, there's that. There's also the talk about Kotor remastered, which doesn't seem to be happening anymore. So, yeah, there you have it. Revan is in this story. We don't know what capacity. Joel, what did you react when you first saw this, and what have you thought since?
I was like surprised at first, like, oh wow, they're actually gonna do this. Okay. And then I thought about like, no, that makes sense. These Lego things are like not for general audiences. They're made for like hardcore fans and nerds who are like,
And
oh my
kids who don't know
god.
better.
Oh, I mean, and
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the first episode. These things are made for like the nerds online, even
Yeah.
down to some of the jokes. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh my god, it's Revan. She's a cool outfit and not much else. Um, she's so epic. Um, no, I mean, I don't know what this means for the future. I mean, given what I've learned about the future, I don't think Revan's in the cards at least for a couple more years.
Interesting.
Um, given everything I've heard about what's in the pipeline, what kind of the grand plans are moving forward. But it's cool. It's cool. I think that's a good. This is a good place to have them in. I would have them in. They don't speak, so you don't know what their gender is, which is nice.
Yeah.
I don't expect for Keanu Reeves to like peer up anytime soon. Well, it kind of be funny if like, ooh, they look like Keanu Reeves. Like, no, wait, they're Brie Larson. Like he keeps switching back and forth between Brie Larson and Keanu Reeves. You don't know which gender they are. That'd be hilarious. But no, it's Lego. This. I didn't even really watch the whole first season of this thing.
Wasn't it a one shot, like a one?
No, it's a couple of episodes long.
Couple of episodes. I know I watched the whole thing. I just forgot.
But no, I mean, it seems like a good, cute place to put it. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, it's a 4-part miniseries. That's right. Keep in mind, of course, this is this other pocket universe where they literally throw all the pieces up in the air and then see what lands. So literally, and so who knows who's actually behind this mask? But the fact is, it is the Revan mask from Legends. He does say, the main character there does say, hey, judging from uniform, Old Republic. So that was cool. Sig Griebling is his name. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Looking forward to, I mean, this also, it makes me look forward to it more. That and the poor Gil. Definitely excited for that. That
does look funny.
That's hilarious. The poor Gil with a Black Falcon coming out of it. There we go. That's in another the other trailer. But yeah, so yeah, again, paper / video game to screen pipeline, especially from Legends. It seems like, I mean, yeah, it seems there's been an appetite for this for a while. So there we go. Yeah, I think that's about it for our front matter. Any more thoughts, feels, hopes, dreams?
Nope. I think it's best try not to read too much into it. Don't expect like 2026 Old Republic movie, and then announcement anytime soon.
Well, here's a question. So we banded about with Mara Jade because of is in Starfighter, or who is it? Yeah, the red hair.
Goss?
Yeah,
Goss is blonde.
Was another character who was red hair? Oh no, this is in the comic book. This is Tava in the comic book. Gotta keep all these stories straight. My eye on all these things. Yeah, Tavaren in the comic there. Who do you think is the most likely Legends character to come into any sort of canon?
Oh, Revan, absolutely. I mean, Revan's already canon. Revan's already canon.
True, yeah, but I mean, actually show up and do something.
Oh, you mean like a Thrawn situation?
Yeah.
Oh, Revan, absolutely. I mean, remember, Revan was this close to being in the new canon. If they remember the Mortis deleted scene?
Yeah, it was in Clone Wars. That's right. Yeah. So
they were this close. Mm-hmm. They cut it out because of the whole Cisco thing, but they have the asset somewhere.
Yeah,
it's somewhere there.
So, I mean, what about in the Maul series? I think something about that is possible.
I mean, you never know. Dan Whitworth gets to talk to Revan anyway. It's possible. I mean, if anyone's gonna look up ancient Sith stuff, I mean, Maul was on Malachor, which was from Old Republic 2. It's not the same situation as in Old Republic 2.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too into it. Just all that Malachor and Revan were connected in the game.
Sure.
So maybe.
Wasn't there something about Bane finding a Revan holocron?
Yeah, he learned about. He kind of self-taught himself Sith stuff, and it was from a Revan holocron.
So Maul finding a Revan holocron. We've seen Maul with the holocrons before in Rebels. So, yeah, I can see it. All right. let's get your poli sci hats on once again. We should actually literally have poli sci hats or something.
I got
The,
these headphones. They don't really work.
yeah, that's true. They won't be red. They won't have the first one. Won't be make. Unless I do something funny. But yeah, let's chat about government continuity and successor states and all that fun stuff.
Continuity. So it's funny. I'm gonna kind of start with a little bit of a Star Wars thing, and then we're gonna get into like real world stuff, and then back to Star Wars.
Okay.
So whenever I think about this question of like, did the Republic become the Empire, become the First Order? I always think of this scene from the Star Wars Battlefront 2 trailer, the EA one from 2017, and it's from the initial trailer that they showed it at. I think it was Celebration, or it was EA. I don't remember. Anyway, it was the first one, and the first shot is you have it's like the music plays, dun 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 dun, all that stuff, getting you hyped. And the first shot is clones on Camino. They got a bunch of clones on Camino. The rain's going in them, and then flash. They show stormtroopers, invaders like marching, doing his inspection. Yeah. And then the next scene is bang, First Order stormtroopers sitting in the little transport thing from Force Awakens. And then a scene of the Trade Federation attacking Naboo, and then battle. But I always think about that scene: clone trooper, stormtrooper, to First Order stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Republic to Empire to First Order. Which I do think is thematically supposed to be telling us, at least from that, at least in that game perspective, that yes, the Republic becomes the Empire, becomes the First Order. There is a through line. Obviously, we know that there are Imperials who worked for the Empire, who worked for the First Order. That's pretty clear. So I always think of that as sort of my baseline of like, whenever anybody asks me that question, is the Republic the Empire? Like, yes, I think so. I mean, to be fair, I think that's what George would say too. I mean, clone troopers become stormtroopers. We have the Star Destroyers. We have, the officers, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I think that's where I always start, in terms of just the Star Wars thematics of it all. I guess I'll ask you this question: what has your perspective always been about this, from like the thematic perspective, before we get to the nitty gritty?
Yeah. So I have a similar.
The Empire to the Republic to Empire. If you don't agree with First.
I mean, I have a similar image in mind, and it's at the end of Attack of the Clones when Palpatine is there and Bale they're on that balcony, and they're looking at these white-clad troopers boarding pointy triangle ships to go across the galaxy and spread from Coruscant to across the galaxy, right? Is that not empire building? Is that not consolidating power? And you have Bail Organa, that oh man, Jimmy Smits, the punch on the balcony, just that little moment of, this is bad, this is not freedom, this is some dire situation. And he I mean, he can already see the writing on the wall that 3 years from now it'll be, I mean, doesn't know exactly, but he can tell something is up. And yeah, it definitely, I mean, that's George telling us straight up, this is what's happening. So I mean, we got the 501st here, and they look nice in the blue. We got the regs back here in white. Yeah, it's a great image of military power being wielded, even in the name of democracy, can be evil pizza slices. Yes, there we go. The symbols. Well, actually, it's funny, but it's true. Like the Republic logo.
Yes.
Is that, I guess, the central question that something like Mask of Fear brings up is, and I think we talked about this when we reviewed that book. To what extent is the Republic, is the Empire the successor state of the Republic? To what extent is, I mean, did it incorporate separatist elements as well, in terms of just the financial institutions, the power of corporations? Just it harnessed it. to what extent is it trying to be? It doesn't want to be this third thing that lets the past die, lets the past burn, because the republic was corrupt and decayed and uh, whatnot, and the empire stands as this gleaming pinnacle of security and order. And so, yeah, it's an open question, but I think what what maybe is easier to see is the way the republic is the precursor to the empire, and that's Doug Chiang explicitly. George was like probably told Doug, make this look a bit like the empire, right?
Mhm.
uh so yeah, it's there, it's clear. Even little lighting designs, the windows, and to say, I also, when I was in Rise of the Resistance, and you go on that Star Destroyer and you see those same lighting panel, those long oval line things with the lighting panels. It's like, oh yeah, that's the legacy of the Galactic Republic. That's the legacy of the Grand Army of the Republic. What's, I guess, a little tricky and different is between the Empire and the First Order, you have this New Republic, but where's the New Republic in this? Are they a successor state to anything at all? They were from the
I
Alliance to restore the Republic, but I don't know.
I would say yes. I think they are a
Mm,
successor state to the Republic because I
mm,
think the Republic splits in two and never recovers. Maybe splits in
Interesting.
three if you want to add the Separatists as the third faction,
Yeah,
um,
that's interesting.
which we can get into later. But let's
Yeah,
actually kind of let's get our poli
mm,
sci hats on it even more so now. Let's tighten them up
sure.
and let's get our terms straight and like what actually counts
Hmm.
as successor state, government continuity,
Hmm.
etc., etc. Because I think this gets really interesting, and I'm gonna start with some ancient history
Hmm.
before we kind of get into the modern stuff. Because I think when you get to the modern stuff, it gets even more weird and fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I think ancient history is really weird because you don't
Hmm.
because it takes a while for like true revolutions and stuff like that to really kind of we think of the modern nation state as today.
Yeah.
Because obviously we didn't have like the modern nation state doesn't really come until like late 1700s and not even then to like the 1800s, really, if you're thinking
Sure.
about like what I think of a modern nation state.
Hmm.
Um, so I always think that let's go to the first one, and probably one you probably know a little bit about, given your background. Let's talk about our good old friends in Constantinople, in
Hmm.
old Byzantium.
Hmm.
Um, I think the real question is here in terms of successor state slash, um, continuity is we call it the Byzantium Empire.
The Byzantine.
Byzantine, or some people
Yeah.
say Byzantine, some people say Byzantium.
Okay. Sure.
I've heard both pronounced Byzantine Empire.
Hmm.
But when Western Rome fell,
Hmm.
the people over in Constantinople were just like, "We're the Eastern Roman Empire.
Yeah.
We were just created to keep the two. Just not our fault. Our Western brothers fell quickly, and we're still around.
Yeah.
But they all thought themselves as Roman. Justinian was like, "I'm just gonna get Rome back for you guys eventually.
Hmm.
Don't worry." Um, like we still got the Senate. We still got the flags and all the stuff. Um, so when did they stop seeing themselves as the Eastern Roman Empire? When did the transition truly begin
Hmm.
to take shape of Byzantium? And I think there might be a few things of when the bureaucracy started speaking Greek instead of Latin.
Hmm.
Orthodoxy may have taken over as the main religion, although I'm not quite sure if that was the case across the board or if that was just in
Well, at that time,
Byzantium.
they wouldn't have necessarily made a distinction between Orthodoxy. The Orthodox Catholic distinction wasn't there. Although what you're getting at there is the center of gravity in Constantinople, or is it still in Rome? Right.
That's true, and then things get really complicated because then you get Charlemagne, and
Right.
then you get the Holy Roman Empire.
Hmm.
Um, but the Eastern Empire is still around, still kicking. So it's sort
Yeah.
of like when does it truly become a successor state, or when is it just like Rome just getting really small?
Hmm.
Um, Look at the Byzantium Empire, it didn't just it took a while to collapse,
Hmm.
and if you count them as part of the Roman Empire in general, then when people say the Roman Empire fell, then it doesn't fall when Rome is taken because you still got all the East still around. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, it's still around, still
Yeah.
there, still kicking. Which, funny enough, kind of reminds me a bit more of like how the Legends Galactic Empire fell,
Hmm.
because when they fell, when Palpatine died the first time, um, the Empire broke up into like these big warlord chunks,
Yeah.
like they were like warlords who had like complete like mini empires, like
Mhm.
at the size of the New Republic, with like they were large fleets.
Mhm.
And then it's like the New Republic took them out. Sometimes Thrawn, I guess it's the Justinian in this case, where he like tried to get a lot of it back. That he gets
Interesting.
defeated, of course, and then Palpatine comes back again, and then he gets died again. And then just the Empire shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. It doesn't just collapse, but it just kind of
Right.
shrinks until it becomes like a whole rump state of the Imperial remnant,
Mhm.
and then comes back later with the Fell Empire. When a new dynasty takes over.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess my question is to you, Matthew, as someone who
Mhm.
studies this stuff:
Yeah.
is there ever a true distinction between Eastern Rome and Byzantine or Byzantium, or is it just like one
Right.
continuation and then historians just kind of retroactively say, and now they're Byzantium?
I mean, so they call themselves the Roman Empire, right? Constantine was the emperor. Um, he tried to hand it off to his sons, and that didn't quite work. But he's the one who moved from Rome to Byzantium and renamed it. And so, I mean, the idea of a Western and ultimately Christian empire. I mean, that's the thing. It begins with him. It starts with him, right? So maybe even what we consider now to be Europe's kind of Christian heritage starts with Constantine moving to Constantinople and the Milvian Bridge and his whole conversion, all that, and the conversion of the empire. And Daisy makes a good point. It was always Greek.
Okay,
Um,
fair. Oh, okay.
Because I guess I mean that's it is fascinating that those two changes happen at the same time, right? It becomes centered in Constantinople and it becomes Christian.
Mhm.
Um, where yeah, whereas I mean, what trying to think here, how to word this. Yeah, what ends up happening, of course, then is that the civil apparatus in the West. I mean, it collapses, it fractures. We get what's called the Dark Ages, but you have um, different political organizations, but they're also all becoming Christian too. And so what that means is that the bishops, and especially the Bishop of Rome, becomes incredibly important to the point where he's still the most important Christian leader in the world. you know, um, just some people might quibble with that, but come on. Uh, but that's the origin of the papacy, is the vacuum that is
The Russian
caused.
Orthodox Church might have something to say about that.
So you mentioned the Russian Orthodox Church, because they're so that's the thing is Constantinople claimed to be the second Rome. Moscow
Russia's
came
the
to be
third room. Yep.
Moscow claimed to be the third Rome,
Yep.
and they then you have tensions between, and that's underlying tensions between. I mean, this war, it's been going on for a number of years, but also tensions between the Russian Orthodox Church and the rest of the Orthodox world. I mean, if you really want to put a date on it, there's
Mhm.
two, I think, is two candidates for when it really ended and really became a distinctly Eastern thing. I mean, there's two candidates.
Mhm.
1648, right, which is um the fall of the Byzantine Empire, right? The the Muslim conquest of
Good old Ottomans
Constantinople.
takeover.
Yeah, and it becomes
Istanbul.
the Muslim Ottoman Empire.
Mhm.
And they get to Vienna, which is wild. Uh, or go further back, and we talked about this distinction, 1054, and 1054 is of course the Great Schism, where where we get this schism between Eastern Christianity, Western Christianity, and what that is a reflection of the reality already in place, right? Part of it's provoked by the Crusades, and the Pope sends these crusaders to go take back Jerusalem, but they end up killing a bunch of Orthodox Christians too. And that alienation, animosity, that just the isolation of them. And so it's that kind of thing. I don't quite know what this has to do with Star Wars, but kind of the isolation between East and West by that point. Some small doctrinal things that don't really matter for us, but yeah, maybe that's maybe like you said, that is maybe the death of Palpatine, in that I mean, you have the Imperial remnant, and that, I mean, not just to Jakku, but further on, we still have the Imperial remnant out there. We see in the Mandoverse.
Well, I got kind of a way to think about it. So think of the Republic as kind of Rome, just in general. But some people like to make the comparison anyway. As Rome,
yeah.
Then Rome kind of splits off into many Romes in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
The Empire. Well, first the Republic splits off into the Republic and the Separatist. Then the Empire forms it, kind of reforms them all. Kind of like Separatists. You get back in here, or we will kill you.
Yeah.
And then the Rebellion comes. They split off from the Empire as they are from the Republic. Separatists are kind of like just barely dead. They're probably like dead at this point. And then when Palpatine dies, the Empire splits again to New Republic, Imperial Remnant, depending on which continuity you're following. The sizes are different, but still there. Now you kind of got two republics. Now they're fighting each other. They're fighting each other. Yep. It's true. And then, you got now you kind of the galaxy divide between like the Rome number one, these three Romes of like New Republic, Imperial Remnant, and maybe sometimes you'll find this planet that's still got its separatist roots and is trying to hold on. Count Dooku the Visionary.
Darn right.
But it's like that's kind of what happened. Where it's like Rome was once the big freaking entity, and then as it kind of fell, it didn't really go away. It just kind of broke down into like little chunks, and kind of in some ways more successful chunks, more stable chunks, in some cases. Catholic Church is still here. So
Western Europe, Western civilization.
Eastern Europe too. So just kind of breaks up, and then just kind of become little states that are kind of just work out.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are living in countries that are still, I'd say, still successor states of the Western Roman Empire, right? Quebec and Latin America are more explicitly that because of language, but our alphabet. We have lots of words in Latin, but also just Western civilization, Western assumptions and mindsets. I mean, I think even, you're right. The idea of the nation state originates in, it finally comes to bear in the 19th century, but the idea of constitutionalism, of legal, the rule of law, ideally, I mean, it's an Athenian thing, but it becomes a Roman thing. Of course, it's also the rule of men, as the movie The Apprentice shows. But yeah, I mean, basically what I'm getting at is we also have to remember that the New Republic is a successor to the Rebel Alliance, probably first and foremost, right? Mon Mothma would say that. They, that's why it's on Chandrila and then on Hosnian Prime.
Well, they are the alliance to restore the Republic.
They are the alliance, and the Firebird symbol and all that, and so they just adopt Republic institutions and ideas like the Senate, but I think they are trying to do a new thing out of the Phoenix from the ashes. They're trying to do a new thing out of the Rebel Alliance. I mean, almost to me that seems more a bit like the Western Empire, right? You mentioned, the kind of the vacuum that is left by Palpatine. You mentioned, the vacuum that's left by Constantine. That you mentioned, Charlemagne, before him Otto, right? The reason they call it the Holy Roman Empire is, there isn't any kind of direct continuity, but I mean they claimed it. but it is
Everyone
sort of,
claimed to be Eastern, to
yeah,
be fair.
they claimed it. Napoleon claimed it, right?
Right.
But and oddly enough, claimed it. I mean, that's the thing with Otto. Is it Otto in 800 or Charlemagne? I forget which one it is.
I think
Uh,
Charlemagne's about the time to get to 800.
yeah, so this is interesting. Leo the Third. No, you have Leo the 14th, but that's Leo the Third. He's the one who crowns him, and there's this question: um, is it is by virtue of papal authority, by the Bishop of Rome saying you're the emperor, or is he Charlemagne saying I'm the emperor? Hey, Bishop of Rome, come to heal. It's That's the birth of this new thing, for better or for worse. And yeah, I think that seems to be just in place of just like with the empire being gone, the remnant, in place of it, we have this new republic that has its problems. You know, Otto, or not Otto, Charlemagne, really, I mean, that's what we call the Middle Ages, right? This medieval, which is kind of this, almost this high republic, almost this, I mean, it's kind of old republic, but really high republic of this kind of golden age in a way that we look at. I know something depends on where you're sitting, depends on where you're looking at. I see the Middle Ages as this, a bit of this golden age of, at least of intellectual flourishing in the West. It's where we get, where we learn about Averroes and Avicenna, for example, right? And Aristotle, and therefore Aristotle. So, the New Republic has something going for it in that way, for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. Well, we talk about the third Rome.
Mhm.
Talk about where the continuity stops. Then we haven't actually seen this in Star. Well, there's a debate of whether or not there is one. It's not a government, but there is debate about when a continuity stops and when something begins afresh.
Mhm.
Um, but I always consider this a true break of the past because this is how they
Mhm.
themselves saw them, and that is when Russia becomes the Soviet Union.
Mm.
Because despite what a lot of people say, the Soviet Union is not Russia.
No.
And you're probably asking yourself, what? What? But they always call it Russia. Well, that's what the West always called it, Russia.
Yeah. And
So
it's led from Moscow, to be fair, but
well, to be fair, well, yeah, that's fair. But the reason why the Soviet Union just has all the Russian territory,
Mhm.
just because that's just kind of how it just worked out. Because
Yeah.
the idea was when the revolution kicked off
Mhm.
that we're gonna have this revolution. Russia's gonna be the thing that kicked it off, but then all the other socialist parties and communist parties out there that are kind of reeling from World War One and the chaos of that, like, okay, we kicked it off. Now you guys are gonna kick off too, and
Mhm.
then you're gonna all join us, and we're gonna make a big super communist utopia state. It's gonna be great.
Mhm.
That didn't work because the German elite crushed their communist,
Mhm.
and the rest of Europe kind of crushed their communist. Some states got formed, and then they got crushed later, like in Hungary. Um,
Mhm.
and then the Russian Civil War kind of happens, and then as things kind of shake out, and then the treaties kind of are signed. All the former Russian territories kind of rejoin together as the Soviet Union,
Mhm.
and then they kind of just like, okay, we have to stop. We have to take a break. We can't go on. We have to stop the fighting. We're gonna
Yeah.
die if we keep doing this. So, but the Soviet Union did not see itself as a continuation of Russia. They wanted a whole new society. They, obviously they had to speak Russian because that's the territory they got. But it's like,
Mhm.
they also invented Kazakh and Ukrainian. I mean, Ukraine had the border it has because of the Soviet Union. All those other
Mhm.
Baltic states, all the Kazakhs, all the stands have their borders
Yeah.
because of the Soviet Union. They wanted to build a new society. Socially, like conservative laws of Russia were gone. Like Russia was one of the few states in like the early 1920s to like let have gay marriage and abortion and divorce pretty easily. It's like
Mm.
they kind of rolled it back later,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
when things had to, but it's kind of got a little back and forth. But obviously women's rights and all that stuff. So they saw themselves like, remember that their goal was like international communism. They just didn't
Yeah.
want to be stuck to Russia. So and they had to rebuild all the
Mhm.
institutions from scratch, more or less. I mean, and the old elite definitely got eliminated.
Yeah.
So that is a true revolution. It's kind of like what France is a different, a weird example. So I'll get to that later.
But at least similar with the anti-aristocratic.
Yeah, but this is like a complete like turnover. Like
Yeah.
everyone's gone. This is starting fresh from anew.
Mhm.
So there is no connection to the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union, even
Mhm.
when they do kind of let the churches back in, and there is sometimes
Mhm.
claim of Russian nationalism because sometimes we gotta just do stuff to let because the World War II and we gotta rally the people, and it's like, hey, remember when Napoleon tried this? Well, we're gonna do the
Mhm.
same thing to them no good Germans.
Mhm.
But that was always just kind of back and forth, incoherent government policy. A lot of the time, and it gets a little messy. I mean, Stalin was not Russian; he was Georgian.
Really? Didn't know
Yes,
that. Didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. He was not ethnically a Russian. He was ethnically a Georgian. He spoke
Mhm.
Russian with a thick Georgian accent. And
Sure.
there might actually be Brezhnev and Khrushchev might be from Ukraine. Technically, they might ethnically be
Mhm.
Ukrainian. Um, there's always been rumor about that. I'm not quite sure.
Mhm.
I'm never quite sure. But 'cause the thing about Soviet Union is Soviet Union is a union. It's like the states. Like
Yeah.
when they're and when it and this is where I think is really interesting because when the Soviet Union broke up,
Mhm.
it wasn't a collapse of society. It's more like the best way I can describe it is like imagine if every state in the US broke apart, but the
Mhm.
states themselves kind of don't really change. It'd be like if
Mhm.
California went independent and Governor Newsom just becomes President Newsom and
Yeah.
we have an independent army. That's kind of what happened. So a
He'd
lot
love
of the
that.
he would love that. So, but a lot of the bureaucratic and institutional memories
Mhm.
of like the local states or
Yeah.
unions and republic, or that they call them the republic, stayed intact, and that's
Mhm.
why a lot of the current Russian elite do have more in common with the Soviets because
That's interesting.
a lot of them or like their parents or former bosses or whoever got them the job
Mhm.
were just a bunch of old Soviet bureaucrats. I mean,
Yeah.
Putin was a KGB officer. Yeltsin was like a Soviet bureaucrat who rose through the ranks before he decided I'm going to go independent.
Mhm.
And a lot of the dictators of the Stand nations were just the former general secretaries of the Stand communist parties,
Right.
and they just kind of changed the name of the party and decided I'm now just president for
Mhm.
simplicity's sake. So that's why
Pretended to have elections.
yeah, so that's why I always say Russia today has more in common with the current Soviet Union
Mhm.
than with early Russia, even though Putin's kind of doing this weird thing of like trying to
Yeah.
mesh early imperial Russian history with Soviet history, kind of one big thing, and it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
But to go back to Star Wars, because I had a point to this. While we haven't had like a true government break of continuity, although who knows what will happen in the post-Tross era,
Yeah.
in Legends, there is a debate among fans
Mhm.
of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order
Mhm.
truly living up to that name, and that it is a true break. It is a brand new
Mhm.
thing, and that at least in Star Wars nerd Legends history, the
Yeah.
Jedi Order can be divided in between the original Jedi Order, which is the founding 25,000 years ago, to Order 66, and then a true break in that continuity. And Luke
Mhm.
is the start of the new thing to his Jedi Order up to the Legacy comics and what's around during that time.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's even stuff in the books where it's like, Obi-Wan when he's saying goodbye to Luke for the last time with the ghost is like, "You are not the first of the old Jedi. You are not the last of the old Jedi, Luke. You are the first of the new. We're
Mhm.
going to sell a lot of books in the 90s this way." Um, and video games too.
Mhm.
Um, so that is like the best example I can. I mean, obviously it's not a revolution, and Soviet Union was,
Mhm.
but that's a true, in my opinion, a true break of a government continuity.
Mhm.
Even though it's, I guess, in this case, the religious order continuity, when Luke really does have to at least in Legends, really
Mhm.
does have to rebuild the order and the institutional memory and all of it from scratch. Like he got nothing to work with. It's just
Mhm.
him. And then sometimes he'll find somebody who's force sensitive and he's like, "Hey, you're force sensitive. You want to join my Jedi Order? Do
Mhm.
I?" And then that just kind of he
Yeah.
just kind of keeps collecting people. And it's like, "Hey, I got this academy. You want to go to Yavin? Sure."
Mhm.
And he's kind of winging it a lot of the time, at
Yeah.
least in Legends, and maybe probably in Canon too to some extent. We just haven't seen
Mhm.
it yet explored. But that to me is sort of a true break,
Interesting.
even if the names are similar. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to think of that in terms of successor state versus, successor religion or religious institution. I mean, the idea of a religious institution versus a state institution. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, that's what makes the current contemporary Russia so fascinating. Is it's the Orthodox Church baptizing the Soviet Union, and that's the contradiction. Although where it keeps it is this incredible skepticism of the West. It's just that, well, I don't know. Well, here's a question for you. I don't know. Is the skepticism of the West now is rooted in this very conservative, oh, they're secular, they're um well, they still say decadent, but secular and liberal, progressive, and we're holding on to the truth of the faith, and that happens to be. I mean, that's why we see the erosion of LGBTQ rights. We see the erosion of women's rights, erosion of democratic rights overall, and uh, this very militant foreign policy. It's literally militant, right? They're literally
Well,
trying
I
to
got an
take over
answer for that.
Ukraine. Well,
I got
here's
an
my
answer.
question: is
Okay.
how much of that is new, and how much of that is continuity from the Soviet Union as well? Because I mean, with the Russian Empire, it wasn't so much because everyone they wanted to be like a Western European empire,
Mhm.
at least in the later towards the end of it, right? They were still Eastern, but Catherine Le Grand, the French, they spoke French. They called it St. Petersburg, all that. So at the capital in St. Petersburg. So yeah, how much of it is this current kind of very aggressive, very cynical foreign policy, a continuity of the Soviet Union? How much of it is this new, uh, you know, Christian conservatism of its own way?
I actually think Putin doesn't believe any of this, or at least he might not. I mean, he may. I
Sure.
don't, these days, I don't know. He's getting old, but I'm gonna be honest. A
Yeah.
lot of it is the West's fault for expanding into the former Soviet Union in the first place,
Interesting. Yeah.
because the Russian foreign policy was like Ukraine, Belarus, the stands. They're not allowed to. We don't want them joining NATO. That's our sphere of influence.
Yeah.
It's all our territory. But then when the West starts wanting Ukraine and the stands to start joining NATO,
Hmm.
Russia would be like, "Hey, you're getting your military lines near our borders here."
Yeah.
Yeah, last time we'd see military lines within our borders, we call that World War II, and we lost like a bajillion people, so we're paranoid. Um, in fact, Putin actually wanted to join NATO once upon a time, but we said, "Nah, you can't do that,"
Interesting.
because we don't like Russia that much.
I mean, there was the G7 became the G8.
Yeah, so Putin was actually
Yeah.
once upon a time really cool with it, but then we
Sure.
kind of screwed him over. So then he'd be like, "Well,
Yeah.
okay, fine, we'll." You won't be our friend, then we'll be our enemy. Whether or not he
Yeah.
actually believes in like the Christian nationalism of it all, it's hard to say, or is he just
Right.
trying to drum up support because like I gotta do something. I don't really actually
Hmm.
believe in anything but power and money.
I mean,
Um,
same as Trump. I mean, I know Trump doesn't believe in any of it.
True. So it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd probably not because he's with a former KGB officer, so he's probably an atheist at heart. I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, some people can kind of have their born again
That's true.
religion, but I mean, that was I mean, that was Soviet policy too. Was like
Hmm.
keep the West away from the Russian border, so we never have to deal with World War II again and
Hmm.
one. We
Yeah.
don't like because we don't want to get invaded. So it's like okay, we have this nice buffer. So
Yeah.
if the West attacks us, we have to go through Poland and the Baltics, and
Hmm.
they can we can fortify our home territory first before
Hmm.
we get attacked.
Hmm.
So, it is kind of a shoot, we lost our buffer and the
Yeah.
West is now really close to us. It's like personal space. So I
Yeah.
guess in some
Interesting.
ways it's like a geopolitical continuity of like
Hmm.
keep the border far away from us as possible. In terms of like the whole international communism thing, I mean that's
Yeah.
gone, obviously.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
And
It
in terms
kind
of
of. So good.
and
No good.
in terms of like, does Putin actually believe in Christian nationalism? I don't know. He's gonna cynically use that to rally
Sure.
rally the people he needs to rally to keep himself in
Sure.
power. And
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
in terms of like in terms of like the Russians themselves, I mean,
Mhm.
I've always heard it's like. It's like it depends on like where you live. Like I mean, it's like in our country. Like if you live in the rural area, it's like
Yeah.
probably if you live in like Moscow, it's like Moscow's like a European city. It's like they get their Russian McDonald's and they get their coffee, and it's like as long as we don't have to actually get drafted into the war, we don't give a we don't really care.
Yeah.
We get to live in our
Sure.
nice apartments and make money.
So it makes me think of Senator Ziono a little bit in a way, right? He's painted, as you're going to see in Ahsoka, he's painted as this they're really skeptical of Hera because she is starting in ideologically, not in sort of a physical geopolitical way, but she's inching towards greater militarization, and so he's all no, hold on a minute, let's not, and say we didn't, that kind of thing. I mean, I wonder with Luke and his order. I mean, it's interesting to the extent the real question. I mean, with Rey and her order, right, or whatever it is, if she calls it an order. It's always the extent of continuity or change, like we were talking about last week. This tension that uh that these group, every society, every communal entity, but anything that claims to be holding on to and preserving something from a previous generation, and especially one that's claimed to hold on to something from 2000 years ago, uh, has to undergo this negotiation between what do we keep and what do we adapt and what do we change. And we see, I mean, this is maybe a bit more of a contemporary conception of this, but a bit too I don't want to be too linear about it, but in our day, it's about the change versus the continuity itself. um but the questions of diversity versus unity and uniformity, or um different, I guess, yeah, it's diversity, but what languages do we use, and different questions that religious groups always have to negotiate. um and so, yeah, that's the real question: is what will this order look like? Will we know as fans know by the time these Ray's films come out? That's the question we keep asking pretty much almost every week, every other week, is what does this whole galaxy look like after the First Order, after the Republic, after the New Republic, right? um it is really starting from scratch now, and so we don't know yet what the thing up underlying all these uh conversations that we're having tonight is you can't just start from nowhere.
Right.
That's the thing with the New Republic, is that they had to, like we saw with in Ahsoka, we saw them go to Corellia and try and find a ship because they had to get a ship. And it turns out there's lots of some Imperial sympathizers there, but you got to use the Corellian shipyards because they're the ones around. Got to use the holonet because that's what's around. Got to have some sort of bureaucracy and organization.
Mhm.
And Mon Mothma, she knows what she knows. And so, for practical reasons, I mean, that's why there are successor states, is largely practical, right? And not largely, but in a lot of ways, like you said, with the transformation from the Soviet Union to the Russian Federation, and the Warsaw, well, not the Warsaw Pact, but what we have now with this Russian orbit of influence. Well, yeah, a lot of it's practical, right? Keeping it in Moscow. Why didn't they move back to St. Petersburg? What for? So,
Strategically, actually, that's actually the fun fact. That was
yeah.
strategic.
Mm,
In the Russian Empire was St. Petersburg.
mhm,
Um, but then through strategic reasons, because St. Petersburg's so close to the border, they're
right.
like, let's actually move this back. Also, there was like
Mhm,
Russia's really interesting
mhm,
because Russia for years, less so in the Soviet Union, but definitely more so in the Russian
mhm,
Empire and a little bit even in modern Russia, Russia has a bit of an identity crisis of, are we European? Are we not
Right.
European?
Their own
I've
thing.
actually watched some like stuff about the Tsar where it's like, they're like, we're not a European nation, dang it. We are Russian. We do not believe in the European values and what the British are constantly trying to get us to do, despite the fact that he's my cousin and my grandma. Or my grandma. Like Russia sometimes does not like to see itself as a European power. Russia is either a Eurasian power. It believes, in kind of the Stan and Asia kind of, it's its own thing. Eurasian civilization. Which is a whole bunch of weird things. But it's always had this
Russia
identity
borders China.
It does border China. It's like, well, are we more Asian than Europe? Like, or do we want to be a quote unquote a European nation? With our fancy coffee and our, or are we Russian? Are we our own thing? We are going that way to the east, my friends. And there's always been a bit of a back and forth of like, we're European, no, we're Asian. We're Eurasian, a new thing. And that means certain things politically, culturally.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that's just rhetoric for like we're anti-gay because the Europeans are a bunch of
right, which was what I was getting at before too. Yeah. So interesting.
But yeah. That's definitely something as well. I mean, China and Russia are and even some of these smaller and like Iran, another one's interesting for me as well because these aren't just nations; these are civilizations that have been around forever. I mean, Iran especially, like Iran and China, even more than Russia. Like Iran especially, like it's had more or less. I mean, it's gone through dynasties like the Safavids and the Salafids and some of the other things. But even then, sometimes those borders are still the same. It's like maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's like the Shah himself, when he was given his big anniversary speech a couple years before the revolution of the Islamic Republic, was like, I am part of a dynasty that lasted 2,000 years of Shah rule. Going all the way back to some guy I forget, Khosrow or something. I mean, obviously the Islamic Republic is a republic now under the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei. But they still see Iran as Iran. Like they're still kind of part of that continuity of like we are a great Middle Eastern power, which they are. So you're talking about these things have to come from somewhere. I mean, I think that's why in a lot of ways a lot of other Middle Eastern countries, with a few exceptions, and African countries, with again a few exceptions, get so unstable because like where they come from.
Yeah.
Well, they came from a guy in Britain, like just like, all right, we're gonna do this, draw here. Oh, we're gonna
a lot
have
of
this
straight lines.
This province,
Egypt.
Egypt can stay the same because Egypt's Egypt. And Egypt's has been part of a civilization. So it's like, but outside of these kind of areas that have like these organic roots, a lot of the other African countries are like, zoop, Nigeria. Okay, that's good enough. Who cares? They'll be fine. We'll rule forever. Hail Britannia. So,
they just abolished the idea of any kind of successor, not just as states, but political, social, tribal entities. It's just nope, going to cut right through the line. And yeah, to your point, there's nothing that came before. Well, there was, but nothing that is recognizable. So,
yeah. So but yeah, there's that. I'll go to my next part if you don't mind. Because this is where I think another comparison I had to Star Wars Galaxy, France, the French,
les enfants de la patrie.
Because if you want to get like really cynical about Star Wars from real world politics and kind of forget that this is a fantasy, the Galactic Alliance. Sorry.
No, I was like, forget this is a fantasy. What?
I know, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Like the war between the Empire, the First Order, and the Republic, and New Republic, and all that. You could argue it's just galactic elites just trying to play spin the just what's that game where you run around chairs and sit down?
Oh, musical chairs.
Musical chairs, and it's like, okay, now these elites are in charge, and now those elites, and now these elites. And that's very much France, because France, oh boy, France has always more or less kept the same borders, except for the few times it was an empire, except for that one time with an empire and Napoleon.
Mhm.
But oh boy, you have the OG Kingdom of France. Then you have the first French Republic, which was the Revolution.
Mhm.
That turned into the French Empire, which was Napoleon.
Mhm.
Then you have the old monarchy coming back under the Bourbon Restoration. Then you have the July monarchy, which was a revolution that installed another monarchical family in power that wanted to be more liberal.
Mhm.
Then you had the Second French Republic, which Napoleon III, nephew to Napoleon I, became the president of, and then got emergency powers and then declared the Second French Empire for a safe and secure society. Then he lost after the battle of the Franco-Prussian War to the Germans.
Mhm.
And then you have the Third French Republic, and they got defeated by the Germans after in World War II, which then became the Fourth Republic.
I mean, not counting the Vichy regime, are you? Not at all.
Nah, not really. I mean, you could for like a few seconds, but like then
Vichy regime.
a mini civil war between the Free French and the Vichy, and then you get the Fourth Republic, and then eventually you get the Fifth Republic, which we have today.
So that's 10 regimes.
That is 10 regimes.
200 years.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
That's a regime every 20 years. All right.
Kind of, more or less. Let me see. I got a calculator. Hang on. I can do something for us.
I counted it. And this is, I mean, if we're counting, well, when was the Fifth Republic? Now, the transition from the Fourth Republic to the Fifth Republic was a peaceful referendum, to be fair.
It was kind of a coup.
Yeah, I get the Gaullist thing, but
1940. Actually, no. Oh, whoopsies! I did not mean to do that. No. Well, anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of regimes over 100 couple years.
Yeah. Because in 150 years.
Yeah. So a lot of regimes.
Yeah.
A lot of regimes. But what's interesting about these regimes is that, well, yes, some people do lose the game permanently. The reason why the Bourbons and Napoleon are not come back. In the early years, there were people who were influential people of the old regime who managed to stick around for the new regime. I was watching a video about a guy named Talleyrand.
Oh yeah,
Talleyrand, who was influential during the first Ancien regime, the Louis, and he was around during the Republic, the First Republic, even during when the Reign of Terror was going on. He was Napoleon's foreign minister throughout most of his reign. Then stabbed Napoleon in the back, decided like, this guy's nothing to lose. I'm going to go to the other side. Came back through when the monarchy was restored, and even got him. And he lived just long enough to see the July monarchy. And apparently, like I forget if it's either his son or just a young person he kind of mentored, became a bigwig in both the July monarchy and the Napoleonic, the second time Napoleon took over in the Second French Empire. So you have these, and this is where I think Star Wars is a little bit more like France in this way, where you have these people who are still influential even under different regimes. I think of I guess Ziono was. Apparently Ziono was around during the Empire and just kind of ducked out when the Senate was dissolved, and then decided to come back when the New Republic was around. Like, oh, here I am. You got that. I think of Tarkin's example, though he died with the Empire. So I'm kind of thinking like who lasted more than one regime change.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I think of the rich guys in Mando season 3, since we're talking about that, where the rich guy who was talking to Pershing was like, Empire, Republic, I can't keep track anymore. Like, which regime are we on now?
Jack Black?
No, not that guy. He was on Coruscant. He's just a random guy.
Oh, right.
Like, I'm still rich, right? That's all that matters. And it's like that. I mean, that to me is a kind of an interesting thing about Star Wars is, these regimes, be it the Empire, Republic, First Order, stay in power or come to power, but like a lot of individuals kind of still their lives of power don't really change that much. Right. I mean, heck, even Mon Mothma, I mean, obviously, was an elite of the Old Republic. True. She was technically an elite of the Empire until she decided, I'm out. I'm gonna go fight rebellion. I mean, I don't know if she still has all her money. But you're the chancellor of the New Republic, so you're kind of
Mhm.
important, Mon. No matter how much money you do or don't have at this point.
Yeah.
Your Organas,
Yeah.
they're doing okay for themselves still. I mean, obviously they kind of didn't have influence in Palpatine's court during
Mhm.
his reign, but still had a nice fancy planet and big fancy castle.
Mhm.
Um, and I think Leia's up. Now, obviously Leia's an important person. Um, so
Yeah.
those are some examples there. King Char is the monarchy of Mon Cala is still around. So
By what time? I mean, yeah, sort of. I mean, they get taken over by the Empire, though. And that's what provokes. Yeah, yeah.
that's
It's a good one.
it's so true. But it's like I think Star Wars. I would love to like make some up some new characters, but Star Wars has its tally runs, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting way, which is sort of kind of
Mhm.
where the question of like, is this really a revolution or not? It's like, or
Yeah.
just different people kind of losing out to power while other people are kind of coming back into power, even though
Mhm.
it's like if they lose power, they're still kind of well off anyway. It's
Yeah.
just how much influence you have in government. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? And what do you know about France?
Well, I know a bit
Different.
about France, right? Yeah, I see what you mean. It was definitely very bloody, and a lot of. I mean, the the first estate got taken out, and that's where we get this whole the estates. They really did get taken out, except yeah, you're right. There were some who were able to meander their way in. You know, uh, the church was more or less okay through it all, so that's kind of where my mind goes. Although, if it's a question of having to switch sides, switch allegiances, or else they get reorganized, which is also what happened. Similar story to Latin America, actually, when oh well, actually no, that's a bit of a different story, but I'll get back to that. But yeah, I mean, the graphs and the Santecas and all um these corporate entities, they are
Muns,
and
the banking clan, the
the
banking
Munes and the
clan.
Banking Clan, yeah, they all they get Neimoidians and the Trade Federation basically during the New Republic. They're doing okay, right? It's the more we get to see about of New Republic Coruscant, that'll be interesting, right? Because I mean, that's the thing is, how I mentioned at the beginning of the Empire is the beginning of the Clone Wars, and we talked about this with Maul saying it's already happening,
Mhm,
right? The reason it happened was continued consolidation on Coruscant, and economic consolidation, financial consolidation. You see how opulent that place is by the end of the Republic. Um, and it's also, yeah, I mean, it's how it happened, but it's also how it goes unnoticed, right? They don't realize this regime change maybe until it's too late, but even then afterwards, right? There are folks in the Empire. I mean, the tags. I mean, I don't know how they do after the Empire, but um,
I mean,
you know,
some people will lose it all, I'm sure.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what Tarkin's relatives are doing right now, or if Tarkin didn't even have it, or if Tarkin's the last Tarkin was
yeah.
gene pool ends with him.
It's too bad because they're a great family. They're pretty cool. Yeah, it's but to the point being, you know, Paris, from what I understand, it just keeps accruing onto itself, just like Rome. I mean, that's the thing with these cities. All these cities,
Hmm.
you can see regime change in the architecture, in the um, in the physical layout. Right,
Hmm.
there are still, the Arc de Triomphe was still there in Paris. There's still Napoleonic monuments in Paris. It stayed the capital ever since. I mean Versailles was the Louis capital, but I mean Paris was still probably the most influential city. And yeah, I mean that's a sign of continuity through regime change is when the capital stays put. Fascinating. Just thinking about though, um, what is it for both the Ottoman Empire to Turkey, which I think you have in the notes, And also, interesting, funny example, Kazakhstan is another interesting example where, I mean, this is the question: is to what extent you can be a successor state, or you can break continuity as much as if you want to, and Turkey, the capital of Turkey is not Istanbul, it's Ankara, right? That was an intentional choice by Ataturk to say, we're not the Ottoman Empire, we're something else, we're Turkish nationalist entity.
But then things get weird because Erdogan's really pushing that neo-Ottoman Empire these days.
Right, yeah, and so that's the thing, is just happens to be in Istanbul or in Ankara. Was it in Kazakhstan? The Soviet capital was Almaty, and the independent Republic of Kazakhstan, their capital is Astana. There's still Soviet architecture, but they don't like it. So yeah, but even then, like what the orbit is. So that's an interesting thing, is they go through cycles, right? Is to say the successor state can break away and say, no, we're not that, and then come back around inevitably. I mean, I think if the New Republic kept going the way they were, maybe they would come back around to the empire, to being more imperial, possibly, right? Unless they develop certain constraints, like, for example, I see Germany has done some things like that. I know you said they're not perfect, but that was such a horrific change and need to change that. It's okay, we're never going to be that way again. Think about what's going on in the US, right? I mean, you literally had Time magazine, or no, like a parody of Time, and Trump with the crown and all that, oddly enough, in the name of liberty and freedom, but continually eroding the rule of law and going back to this sort of monarchical authority, right? That maximal executive doctrine, or whatever it is.
I mean, we've had that for years.
I know, but yeah, I mean, that's well. Here's the question.
Well, here's the question.
Here's my question for you then: is
okay.
Has the U.S. ever truly been a republic, or has it always been a monarchy and an oligarchy?
I mean, I think it's always been an oligarchy for sure. We've had powerful presidents, we've had wimpy presidents. FDR, Woodrow Wilson, Nixon, Reagan, Bush, powerful presidents.
Yeah,
very much powerful presidents. Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, here's the thing: the modern presidency of which we know today starts with Teddy Roosevelt in the 1900s. That's when they're like, hey, maybe the presidency should be like more than just somebody that administers laws. Like,
sure,
Roosevelt was like, let's actually use the bully pulpit here to
be a real political actor.
Yeah, and like actually make the presidency more someone like the legislature more of a. I mean, well, I ask a question for you to counter. How when the position of prime minister was, how much has the position of prime minister evolved in both the UK and Canada? I can tell you, what I learned about the UK. It's like, they've had the prime minister position since the 1700s, more or less, give or take. But the modern prime minister, as we know it today, that took a long time to evolve before it became like the executive that we know it today compared to.
I mean, the kind of the strong executive,
right? So I just see this as just a continuation of something we've been doing since the 1900s.
Yeah, I mean, before that, right? I mean, well, that's the interesting thing you mentioned about the Commonwealth, and Daisy mentioned this too. I mean, conscious continuity. This is consciously in continuity with everything that had evolved in Westminster until 1867. And then we just said, well, we're going to do the exact same thing, just happens to be in Ottawa now. Calling it a parliament, whatever. What is different, and maybe this gets almost, if we're going to bring back to Star Wars, Um, by the time Claudia Gray is writing Bloodline, the time Bloodline is set, is this tension that the U.S. experiences as well between the populists and the centrists. Between now it's kind of flipped, right?
Right.
The populists are more right wing and the centrists are more left wing. Whereas, oddly enough, in the New Republic, it's the opposite, I guess. But if that makes any sense. But I guess kind of more local control, local decision making. But um, you know, Canada started with a very strong federal central government
Mhm.
and case law gradually made it less centralized and more of a balancing game between the federal government and the provinces. And so that plays into the role of the prime minister, right? The executive authority.
Mhm.
It's the same as in Britain. The executive authority is the leader of the legislative branch. That's how a parliamentary system works.
Right.
But there's also these 10 other parliaments that you have to deal with their premiers and their interests in different ideological camps, and including Alberta right now, different kind of relationship with the United States. And so um, that's that. Whereas the US, like you're saying, went into the other direction a
Pretty
little
much, yeah.
bit.
No, I would say very much
Well, very
so.
much.
Like,
I mean, but beginning with Roosevelt, but also, I mean, the Commerce
go back to
Clause.
the Civil War. Let's go back to the Civil War.
Yeah,
And I
I
did
guess, yeah.
here's the great, like my friend Red was talking about this with me when we were talking about the Civil War and the Clone
Yeah.
Wars. But before the Civil War,
Mhm.
the U.S. central government was not even allowed to print money. That's how much states did not like the central government at
Right.
all. Like the modern day federal bureaucracy of America starts with the Civil War,
Mhm.
and kind of like realizing, oh shit, we really need to like
It's
fix this.
even though I mean, I guess you said like Madison and Hamilton them didn't win over against Jefferson. He kind of had the upper hand in that. 'Cause
Um,
I mean, kind of in my like at the very beginning, it was already you know the New
not
Yorkers versus the Virginians.
yeah. I mean, you definitely had Matt. I mean, Alexander Hamilton, despite what the play said, he actually was kind of a quasi monarchist who wanted a strong central authority.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Um,
Madison, Hamilton. I mean, the Federalist Papers.
and he got a little bit of it,
Mhm.
but there was definitely a lot of back and forth. Like I would say that the United States is not a single political entity until after the Civil War,
Yeah.
and that's when a lot of like, and then I mean, this is where the kind of the push and pull comes from, because then
Mhm.
like here's kind of a great example. After the Civil War, we had a bunch of laws that said, "Hey, South, you gotta let people of color into office and
Mhm.
whatnot." South wasn't doing that, so executive authority just like, "Okay, send in the military. We're gonna force the South to
Right.
put in minorities in government because they're not
Mm.
following the rules we set it for them after the send in the National Guard. Now just send in the army. Just send in the
Yeah.
military to deal with that."
Mhm.
Um, and that continues and grows and grows. In World War One, it kind of dulls back a little bit in the 20s, and then FDR comes. He really builds up the modern federal government
Yeah.
that we kind of know today, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. Weird way, Trump's kind of more destroying the federal government, but he's not replacing it with anything, so that just makes chaos.
Interesting.
Which is in a
Hmm.
weird way, Trump is not a king. He's just an idiot. He's just who doesn't have any. Who's
The
like
wrecking ball.
the wrecking ball, but he's not replacing it with anything. This would be
Right.
like if Palpatine's like just wrecks the Republic with like I don't know what comes next. Just
A Death
I
Star.
no, he doesn't like but he like doesn't even hire the right people to build the Death Star. Doesn't even have like a beer. Like he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm disbanding the Senate now. Here you go. Good luck. But not even any
Interesting.
institution to follow him. It's like even the clones will all hate him at this point. Like so
Yeah.
early on.
He tries to build the Death Star, it just falls apart.
It pretty much, yeah. Like oops.
Yeah.
But I mean, here, and this is where we talk
Yeah.
about regimes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Trump might be firing them now, but
Mhm.
from FDR to Eisenhower to Bush two to Obama to Trump one,
Mhm.
there's still a lot of bureaucrats and people who are
Oh
kind
yeah.
of still working in the government. Who just go from okay, I'm the head of the department of this. Oh, new president. Okay, now I'm still a department head because I'm just entrenched this way.
Yeah.
There's still that continuity. And then you kind of got the continuity of people around the presidency. So, like,
Hmm.
you know, a lot of the Obama people were in the Biden administration. A lot of the
Sure.
Bush people are in the Trump administration, which is why I just say to people who are like, Trump is this new horrifying thing. I'm just like, guys, he's pretty much just Bush term 4. Like, when you really think about it, just more
Yeah.
stupid. Like, a
I
lot of
mean,
those
the
same
Tea
people,
Party comes back to that. It's back to Bush pretty much.
and pretty much, I mean,
Yeah.
just different people. But it's like, make sure certain factions are now less inclined, like
Hmm.
like the Dick Cheney, the national security people are weirdly aligned with the Dems now, which
Hmm.
kind of gets weird. It'd be like if Thrawn decided, I'm going to join the New Republic to fight the First Order, and like Mon
I could
Mothma's
see it.
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, he's probably gonna be dead by then. Or like
Yeah, true.
General Veers and Mon Mothma and General Grievous all team up to fight the First Order.
Hmm.
That'd be a weird fanfic. I would write that. Get Ash on that.
There you go. Or
That's
just
Mon.
Lego.
Yeah, that's Mon's coalition.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like we talk about regimes and continuity. Like
Hmm.
a lot of the bureaucrats and the advisors either have their
Hmm.
starts in old administrations
Hmm.
or we're really just part of a new administration. I mean, Bush
Yeah.
brought a lot of his dad's people into power,
Well, yeah.
like Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld,
Hmm.
who were part of Reagan's administration. So you see the
Hmm.
continuity
Yeah.
there. I'm kind of rambling, but I do think that's kind
Yeah.
of, I mean, that's sort of interesting when we talk about where it's like regime and like what is a regime, what is the
Hmm.
continuity regime, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean, kind of what you're getting at with I mean, that also deals with parties, which we
Yeah,
haven't seen much in Star Wars. That's the thing, right?
I see.
Uh, I mean, both parliamentary and presidential systems.
Hmm.
I mean, as you're saying, the way parties get entrenched in those things, parties are more part of the system, a part of the DNA in a parliamentary system, because that's how you count the number of people who you have confidence, right? Um, unless you're Preston Manning and then you miscount by 2 and you lose a vote of confidence. That literally happened in the 80s. Look it up. He miscounted. Um, but yeah, um, yeah, we haven't seen that much parties much in Star Wars. Again, the most we've seen of it is really in Bloodline, and they're, if anything, to say the populists held sway only because they're closer to what the New Republic its origins were about, because closer to what the Rebel Alliance and its origins were about, because Mon Mothma and Leia happen to be populists, which
Hmm.
again, it's an interesting thing. Maybe I should ask Claudia agree with this. Why make? Well, I know the answer to this. Why make Mon Mothma and Leia populists? And I mean, Casterfo make him a centrist, but I mean, obviously, why Clarice Indian's a centrist. Crazy how I remember this book. I've read it once, like 10 years ago.
Never read
um,
it again.
I mean, the
Just read.
reason for that is because Clarice Indian is secretly funding the First Order, and they are very centrist. They want to, in the sense of centralist, they want to control everything. They want to be the successor to the Empire. So, um, yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, that's again the weird thing. Man's
Yes,
Avengers, yes,
Bond's Avengers.
Mon's
Get on it,
Avengers. I heard
Ash.
Man's Avengers. Yeah, there you
Get on
go.
it, Ash.
Um, yeah, I'll send it to her. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. The prequels, even the High Republic, we see a populist opposition to Lina So in Tiatun, but we don't really see parties. The closest thing we come to a party is when bring it back to our topic, Mon trying to ensure that the Empire is as much a successor state to the Republic as possible,
Right.
right? Just trying to strip the Emperor of his powers and make it a ceremonial role. That, of course, succeeds brilliantly. Spoiler alert.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's speaking of people who continue their jobs,
Yeah.
Masameda was the vice chancellor of the Republic under Valorum. Then he
Yeah.
becomes the Grand Vizier under Palpatine. And then he kind of loses power, but he gets to be like a puppet ruler of Coruscant with very much with New Republic oversight. So
Mhm.
it's like We're gonna be watching what papers you sign. Oh, you better be signing that paper correctly, Masameda, or else.
Yeah.
You know, and apparently he got off scot free, more or less. Like he got to retire.
I want to see him in the Mandoverse. What's he up to? What's he doing?
According to Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, he's kind of one of the reasons why some former Imperials who might have don't deserve it got to get nice jobs in the New Republic. He's like secretly kind of like, oh no, they're fine. They're not totally pro Empire. Let them back in. Let them back in. Let them back in.
Sure.
Although it wasn't as bad as what we did with the Nazis in the real world, where it's like
Right.
a bunch of Hitler's old generals who like probably were responsible for war crimes. Like, no, you get to be the new head of NATO, so congrats. It'd be like if like it'd be like it
So
really
congrats.
would. No,
Sorry.
I mean really.
No,
It
it's
really
funny the way you said it. I believe you. It's funny the way.
it'd be the equivalent of like Mon Mothma's like, and now for the new head supreme commander of the New Republic Defense Fleet, Grand Admiral Thrawn and General Veers. They're totally okay. They didn't do any war crimes.
You know.
They didn't just tack us on Hoth. Because
I mean, Thrawn didn't.
Yeah, that's true. He just bombarded Lothal.
You
Thrawn
know.
will defend the Lothal sector. That's not going to cause any tension, won't it? Hera just giving her the eye. But no, I think it is interesting that in galactic politics, and to go back, kind of maybe just get to the final topic. But we haven't again. I don't think we can truly say we've had a clear break or revolution with anything. I think things have either just gotten smaller, kind of split up into like more like kind of multiple successor states, which is kind of akin to what happened to the Soviet Union in some way, where it's sort of like Soviet Union breaks up. So it's like, okay, well, who's the successor state of the Soviet Union? Who gets the seat on the Security Council? That actually was debated for a bit, but like, well, could be any of these really. Like, who gets all the goodies? Ultimately, Russia proper gets it, but it's like, well, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union too, and so it's Estonia. We're technically, it'd be like it's like if America broke up into 50 states, all 50. Legally speaking, any one of us could say, we're the successor state of America. We deserve the UN Security Council seat. That could be from California to Missouri, right? Imagine Missouri being like, we're small, but we deserve, we hold the flag of America, USA.
Kansas City barbecue is spectacular. I can attest.
Mississippi superpower.
Yeah, but that's Ben. He's fine.
Ben Hart, the ambassador to the UN, his barbecue. Or if Canada broke up into the different provinces, like which one could claim like we're the true successor to Canada?
Ontario.
It's
just Ontario.
but kind of that situation where I think, but to go back.
No, the answer is clearly Saskatchewan. Sorry.
But nothing ever it's weird how nothing ever truly says like, no, we are a new thing. Even Palpatine probably tries to erase Republic history for his political reasons. Probably still a lot of people like just see themselves as like, we're an evolution of the Republic. We're the Republic 2.0.
Yeah.
And I just realized before we kind of wrap it up, we do kind of need to talk about the First Order, where they stand in all this. But the First Order is also an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because they are, as a successor state, if they are, which I think they are. Because, but on the one hand, is it they are a successor state, but just for a very smaller faction of the Empire? Because, the First Order wants to obviously, peace, order, restore the galaxy, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't necessarily. Mean they want to necessarily restore everyone who was part of the Empire,
right?
And that includes Palpatine himself. Weirdly enough, at least in Kylo's head and the younger officer's head, and even Hux's head, where when Palpatine comes back, the older generation of First Order's officers who work for the Empire are like, Palpatine, you're back! Yay! We're gonna restore. Don't worry, Palpatine. We're gonna restore you to power.
Well, especially Pride, right?
Yeah, Pride. He probably was working on Palpatine's payroll the whole time. But then the younger, those young neo-fascist whippersnappers, who they were like raise the story. They'd be like, wait a minute. Why do we care about Palpatine? He's the reason we got into this mess in the first place. Like, he's a loser. loser. Right? Like, why do we
Yeah.
want to restore him to power? I thought we were the new thing, and we're going to be even better than the Empire.
Mhm.
It's like how I can use the Germans again. When
Mhm.
evil mustache man came to power.
Yeah.
Yes, he is the Third Reich. Germany will be glorious again. Blah 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 blue. But he wasn't going, I will also restore Kaiser Wilhelm, who's in Belgium, to power. Like,
Right.
Hitler hated Kaiser Wilhelm. He thought Kaiser Wilhelm was a coward and an idiot.
Yeah.
And he hated all those old Prussian aristocrats who were all the former power structures of the German Empire.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting dynamic where it's kind of like the who's, where it's like, yeah, they want to kind of restore the new thing, but they kind of
Mhm.
want to do it in a new way. And it's like, we have no loyalty to the old power structure.
Mhm.
So I just think that's also interesting as well.
Yeah.
I think we can make
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Right.
pretty much.
And the thing is, I mean, it's well, Kylo Ren is Darth Edgelord.
Yeah.
He wants the power. He wants to lash out in anger. He's 30 something, but he's still a teenager. He's still pretty adolescent in that relationship with the past, and that's the thing. I mean, this is on a
But what about
personal
someone
level.
like a Hux or a who's like in like more in it than even Kylo?
Like Armitage?
Yeah, like the Hux Jr.
I mean, I think he might have been a bit more in continuity. I mean, he wanted to be the Grand Marshal. He hated Kylo Ren, right? At the end, he's like, I just want Kylo Ren to lose.
I'm curious how he
But
felt about Palpatine coming back, or
I mean, he probably didn't like it because it would get in the way. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, well, if we're taking paper canon here a little bit, you're saying,
And I also kind of want to
yeah,
and I kind of also want to remove Kylo Ren just a little bit out of the equation because I'm talking about like the officers and like the people who were there from the beginning. Kylo Ren's kind of the MacGuffin who just like Snoke's bringing him in for dark side reasons. I'm talking about
a
like
little bit, but
Prides and
also,
Huxes and the
yeah.
officers guys.
Well, like Hux and Phasma, I mean, Hux and Phasma. Well, Armitage and they murder Brendel. Literal patricide there, because it's the old order, the old ways. I mean, we're this new first order. Now it's the first order to restore the Empire, but they take the name away. They just want the power and the prestige and the I mean, even Kylo Ren, he thought Anakin was a failure. He thought
Snoke told him that.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's part of it. So it's funny. Yeah, you're right. This funny sort of adolescent. We want the power and the violence of, and to strike fear into this galaxy, because all this imperial insignia and imperial designs, ship designs, literal ship designs, will make people think of the Empire. But I mean, if anything, except for the after the destruction of Starlight Beacon, not Starlight Beacon, Starkiller Base.
Yeah,
Starkiller Base.
Cosmic Prime, Starkiller Base.
That one, Circular Base.
Okay.
Because at the beginning it was the Tarkin doctrine. Still, they switched to the Tag doctrine. They switched to sending in all these other Star Destroyers and controlling all the major star systems. And they blitz the galaxy in a way that the Empire never did. And so it's I mean, that's the thing with continuity, is never, like you're saying, there's never ever a clean break. Never do anything new. But you also never do anything perfectly new and absolutely new. But there's always a push. There's always an evolution. There's always a change. And I mean, it's taking, well, even Ransom Casterfo, he's a centrist. He's a more democratic minded centrist. He liked the insignia of the Empire because he thought it was interesting. He
He
thought
gets captured by the First Order, by the way. So I bet you
yeah,
he doesn't like it now. I bet he's kind of learned his lesson, hopefully.
yeah, and but also,
Mhm,
I mean, contra the First Order, the maybe very fancy. He liked the way the Empire uh, ran things. It was very organized, took good records. I think General Pride is like that,
mhm.
whereas Kylo Ren. I mean, it does boil down to also personalities here. Is kind of partly what I'm getting at the
True.
adolescent point. But what is the collective memory of the Empire in the First Order? It's this is kind of this thing we came from, and I mean, we got Kuat shipyards and we got all these other things, but um, you know, we're trying to also. I mean, well, that's trying to do something new. I mean, here's the thing about neo-fascism,
Mhm.
alt-right neo-fascism. It's trying to bring back something, but it's doing it in a very aggressive, angry, almost revolutionary way. And they're
I
trying
mean,
to
that's just classical fascism. It's like,
sure,
I mean, to
sure.
kind of to do a little historical perspective. Sorry,
Hmm.
but this is important.
Yeah.
Hitler and Mussolini were not just restore. They're
Hmm.
like, nah, let's make something new, a new German folk, a new
Yeah.
society. Like it's this weird. It is. I mean, that's why fascism was such a counter to communism at the time, because
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
it wants to be kind of restorative, but it's also revolutionary, or at least what they
Hmm.
think is revolutionary. I
Yeah.
mean, actual revolutionary might disagree, but especially like true hardcore fascists compared to something like Franco, which is a little weirder. I won't
Yeah.
get into it, but Mussolini and Hitler were like, no, we are new. We're going to
Hmm.
make a new, stronger folk,
It's
and we're
it's a
gonna,
utopian vision
yeah, evil
as
utopia,
sure, but I mean, for that in their idea that we're going to fix the world by eradicating everyone who's different from us, right?
exactly, and build
Um,
empires, and build empires.
yeah, and so it's just that um neo-fascism, of the First Order says we're going to fix the galaxy.
Mhm,
We're using the tools of the Empire and the people and the expertise of the Empire,
mhm.
uh, but we're going to create this new First Order. Of course, it's all about the final order in the end, but
It's all about
yeah,
Palpatine.
I think what we're dancing around here is that it's always both. And it's hard to how do we disentangle continuity from rupture? And almost to say, I mean, what almost ends up happening, of course, is that this um continually seeking rupture
Mhm.
uh in this aggressive authoritarian way ends up bringing us back to the same old authoritarianism,
It's
maybe
true.
just unintentionally. So Kylo Ren trying to let the past die, trying to kill it if he has to, ends up resurrecting the past, both unintentionally, and then that's how Palpatine returns, is because Kylo Ren tried to kill the past. There it is.
That's true.
That's it. Mhm,
I'll end it here. I'll end it here
mhm,
with this final thought, and
mhm.
then we'll truly end it because I have this just one last thought.
Sure.
I think whenever we talk about continuity,
Mhm,
regimes, territories, I
yeah.
think a lot of it, in my opinion, this is where I think it comes down to, is what are countries trying to export in terms of values and thoughts and
Mhm,
ideas? And go back to the Soviet Union, my beloved Soviet Union. Soviet Union is truly gone
mhm,
because none of the former Soviet countries anymore really adhere to those Soviet values. I mean, you don't have to
right.
like Soviet values, whatever. But like Russia today does not adhere to Soviet values. You
Mm,
know, they are now very much. Even Ukraine today does not adhere to Soviet values. Like they're very
mhm.
conservative, kind of right wing leaning nationalistic countries, both of them
Yeah.
really. I hear gay rights is not as great in Ukraine either as it is in Russia,
Mm,
um, or most of Eastern Europe, to be quite
yeah.
frank. So so there's that. But but in terms of just like communism itself, the ideals of a central economy and worker-owned
Mhm.
management, like that's all gone. Now in Russia, it's just make money
Yeah.
and sometimes some nationalism. And for anyone who said, like, what about China? China is its own thing, okay? China has always wanted to be its own thing.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I mean, well, yes, sure. Xi Jinping is kind of bringing back a little bit of the. I mean, this is where I mean, again, this is where interesting because like China's also kind of bringing back a little bit more of the old China ways, like the Confucianism,
Mm,
and kind of mixing it together.
sure.
So that's why sometimes China thinks of itself as just a new form of China, as it has been and as it always will be since the Qing Dynasty.
Hmm.
Um, but and I think that at the end of the day is where even if maybe like bureaucratic and political constitutions and whatnot change,
Hmm.
there's still language and culture and
Yeah.
art and
True.
religion. And when those things truly die,
Hmm.
then I think something is truly dead. But
Right.
like I said at the
Extinction.
start,
Hmm.
I mean, is the Pope just not the last vestige of Rome? Is it not? I mean, there's a lot of that in the names, like the Diocles and maybe I'm not the right
Diocese. Yeah.
diocese and all that. Start with Rome, still live on in the Vatican today.
Hmm.
You know, so as long
Yeah.
as the Pope lives, uh, may Rome lives, and even if America collapses into 50 states and just dissolves, America will
Hmm.
as long as the Disney Corporation lives on. And in the future, we will all look to who the next CEO will be, and they will call themselves the Bob. Um, and maple syrup if Canada dissolves one day. Um, so yeah, that's my ultimate
The Bob.
final thing, which kind
Yeah.
of dates back to something I said I think last week, where it's like, if there is like just a couple planets that join together, like we're going to adhere to the values of this republic dating
Hmm.
back to 25,000 years or whatever,
Hmm.
then the republic will live on.
Hmm.
And that's my kind of my final statement on that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know how do I follow the Bob. Well, so,
Okay.
well, to say it's kind of Star Wars adjacent. A really fascinating comic by Charles Soule and Scott Snyder. Uh, Dan Snyder. What are the Snyders? Um,
Schneider.
not the Snyder Cut Snyder, but the other one.
Scott
Not
Snyder.
Zack.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott
Scott
Snyder,
Snyder.
not Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder. Called Undiscovered Country. And yeah, the more things change. Hey, there's another Star Wars adjacent show. Um, it's fascinating. I should rewatch Battlestar Galactica. Anyway, Undiscovered Country. Yeah, the U.S. has
Mhm.
crumbled into these 12 zones, and they're all continuing a certain aspect of American society. What is the true America? It's all of them. It's none of them. Um,
That's
you
what
know,
happened to Rome. A lot of
yeah,
those Gothic kings just kind of adopted Christianity
yeah.
eventually.
Love that. We'll call it the Bob. Disney. Call it the Bob. Another one to look at is Canticle for Leibowitz. It's a
Ooh.
very fascinating novel, Joel. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but it's after this nuclear destruction, and the Catholic Church moves to basically the Midwest,
Mhm.
U.S., in this place called New Rome, and the Pope moves to New Rome, and uh, I mean, this is another thing. What happened in the at the end, the fall of the Roman Empire, or the first Western Roman Empire, is the monks and these other communities started to actually preserve scientific knowledge and philosophy and understanding. And this is what happens again: is these different orders end up preserving the intellectual human treasure of the species. And so that's another thing, is even after massive apocalyptic collapse, there will be people who will preserve the best uh of what came before and carry it forward. And so I mean that's another thing. I'm glad that Ray has those books, because I mean that's something that the Jedi are going to have to do, is, or whoever is, they're going to be the ones to say, um they're going to be the ones to say, yeah, there was this republic for 25,000 years and it's no more. um and they had this bureaucracy, and they had this senate, and they had um this chancellor 200 years before it fell, 230 years before it fell, that really tried to spread and gather everyone together, and then they all use cautionary tale, like just like Jedi Fallen Order tells that same story, right? Is a cyclical, this cyclical story. So, yeah, there will even after, even when revolution is imposed on civilization by this great calamity and cataclysm, there will always be folks who want to, at its best, preserve what we need to preserve to know how to live in the world. So, you know, different orders. Christian monasticism started in the East, but I'm thinking of folks like Benedict of Nursia, who left and went to the caves and founded his community, and then a bunch of other ones. But
yeah, I think we should leave it at that. Good discussion. I don't know if we really came up with a definitive answer for anything, but
both and is the definitive answer for everything. True. Anyway.
But I think we had a good kind of bunch of real world examples, and applied it to Star Wars.
Yes, we as best we could. Yeah, definitely tightened our poli-sci history hats. Seeing how we can understand these political dynamics in Star Wars. I think also, last thing to say there, we need more stories to tell us, and creatives who want to say something to our world right now. Because whatever Trump represents, he does represent a decline. He represents a decline of the American century, right? This long 20th century in which America was the superpower. I mean, it's really since World War II. But he's the last gasp of this. And I mean, we mentioned Russia, we mentioned China. I mean, the BRICS are going to overtake the G7 eventually, which is what I think. So what does
I don't.
Who knows? What does the EU do? What does Canada do? Can the US recover? Yeah, it will. But what is it?
Maybe we just gotta live with it now. It's like, I mean, I'm so sorry, but like, I gotta think of one more thing which kind of applies to Star Wars, and it's something I think a lot of us kind of all want to a certain extent. It's time for It's time for a multipolar galaxy. It's time for just multiple big factions to just kind of having to learn to coexist.
I think that's
if Star Trek could have the Federation, the Klingons, the Cardathians, and the Romulans all coexist, and even with tension. I think Star Wars can too, and the real world has to. It's a multipolar world out there, people.
And so, for the U.S. to adapt to it, they have to adapt to a multilateral foreign policy, global policy, not just foreign policy, global policy. That, I mean, Canada's here to help you, teach you how to do that as best we can.
And I think the West has to learn. It's going to just have to deal with governments that they just don't like the system of, but you can't impose it.
Yeah, that too. All right, I think that does about do it. I do like that multipolar in both the real world and in Star Wars. It's what's going to be how it's evolving. Anyways, great conversation. Again, this is how Ion Canon does it, right? We just deep dive into some one topic and we go talking about it. So that does it for this week's episode. Thanks everyone for joining the comments. If you're watching this after the fact, please let us know what you think. What does Trump represent? What does Putin represent in Star Wars? What do we find these connections?
Is there a successor to the USSR out there? Red, if you're listening, is there like a small state that still wants to hold the true?
Yes. There we go.
There might be, actually. I don't know. I've heard some stories.
I mean, Quebec and Saint Pierre and Miquelon are very much medieval France in some ways, or late modern France, Renaissance France. I don't know. Not
hold the banner high.
They're the closest. Quebec is the closest to Europe that North America has, for sure. So let us know what you thought about comment down below. Let us know. These boxes aren't going anywhere. So please do give this video a like and a share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Joel, another great conversation. Where can they? Yeah. Fun times.
You
Where can
can
they find you
find
on the internet?
You can find me at JID20234 on Blue Sky, JID20234 on Blue Sky. And of course, you can also follow me on the Star Wars Underworld Discord, where we chit chat and have fun of all sorts of things.
There we go. Check them out there. You can follow me, my Instagram, MNEUG1138. Also, Threads and Blue Sky. I'm a bit on Blue Sky there too. Also, beaches.foodie. I gotta post C&E eats. I keep forgetting to do that. So go do that. That's on Instagram and still on Twitter, NEUG485, mostly responding about TFC and whatnot. But there we go. Also, Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. This Wednesday, we are chatting about Tales from the Nightlands #1 and Jedi Knights #7. Again, run, don't walk to your comic book store for Tales of the Nightlands. Fantastic issue. Ryloth lore, pretty great. So yeah, check us out there. And yeah, on Canon Blue Sky, the Tractor Beam on Blue Sky. Please do check that out as well at the SWU. All that fun stuff. Lastly, next week, I'm gonna bring back the old intro. We're returning to the High Republic because I will be just a few hours early pre-recording an interview with Tessa Grattan. Have that lined up. So hopefully that all that works out. And then we'll chat about it, mostly about High Republic, but also about Crystal Crown, which I'm almost done. So stay tuned for that. And then Joel and I will chat about the interview and about different things that come up in that. So yeah, check that out. Same bat time, same bat channel, same Catacoot time, same Catacoot still, Detective Comics, same Catacoot time, same Catacoot channel. And then of course Tractor Beam on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then right back here Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. But until then, let's build this thing and head home.